Damn, this shit is sad. Not gonna lie. What the fuck went wrong? Politics, baby. Money, politics, more like politricks. Mass harassment campaigns that sought to isolate me from the rest of the community by consistently harassing people and punishing them for daring to collaborate with me in any capacity. Ludwig still to this day gets inundated with a barrage of attacks from some of the sweatiest fucking losers on the internet who literally claim that he's my dog. Like I dog walk him. Like he has no opinions of his own. Because like there is a endless appetite to brigade by right-wing groups that can masquerade as like apolitical on the internet. That mask their politics, and there's a lot of success. We've talked about this before. There's been a tremendous amount of success in the apolitical commentary sphere of the idea that like I am peak woke, I'm wrong, I'm everything that's wrong with woke, and I'm just like a fucking huge villain, and anyone that doesn't immediately criticize me all day, every day in the same exact fucking ways that these like psychopaths obsess over are obviously in the pocket and are being blackmailed by me and shit like that. All this stuff obviously accelerated post October 7. It got far worse after October 7. There's a decent chunk of the NMP community that thinks you're grooming Nick to regurgitate your talking points. Yes. Okay. One of the things that you guys have to understand because a lot of people complain in here, they're like, why do you always do politics? That's why, bro. That's why. It's like, well, part of it is because there's a lot of important shit going on in the world. Okay. So I have to do more politics than ever before. That's number one. But the other reason why I don't do as many collabs is because I just don't want to fucking bring that level of like animosity towards other random people. You know? That's it. Everyone in this industry knows I have the most vicious fucking psychopathic stalkers. Everyone in this industry knows that no matter what happens, like if you align with me in any way, shape, or form, they'll make your life a fucking living hell. And some people can handle that heat and they don't give a shit. Some people are totally tapped out of it. But for most people, they're like, I don't want to rock the boat. They've had some successful initiatives in brigading with like Trash Taste podcast, shit like that. My hope is to simply fucking wait it out. Because eventually, when the cultural forces shift, it was really bad when Trump first became president. It was really bad between 2023, the end of 2023, 2024, and 2025. The reason for why it was really bad was because the overall culture had shifted dramatically to the right. Since then, woke has made a comeback in a fairly meaningful capacity. And that's part of the reason why, since woke has made somewhat of a comeback, people are a little bit more open-minded to the things that I'm advocating for, to the things that I push for. They're a little bit more curious about it. Okay? Woke 2.0 has been on the come up. Obviously, none of this has anything to do with normies in the real world, by the way. Most people in the real world like me and have nothing to do. We're talking specifically about the internet. It has a tendency to impact the normie sphere as well. But for the most part, what we're talking about is like Twitch streams, YouTube, commentary sphere, that kind of shit. And one of the greatest examples of this is the treatment that I received, the treatment that a lot of of people who were pro-Palestine received for the first 2 years, being inundated with an endless barrage of ridiculous smears, like calling me a terrorist and having no line of defense from my peers. None of them came out and were like, hey, this is really fucking racist. We should stop this. Like woke 1.0, that shit would not have slided. They would have never let that slide. Like if woke 1.0 in like 2020, if a bunch of prominent Twitch streamers were playing, slided. Woke 1.0, if a bunch of prominent Twitch streamers were fucking turning around playing a game called like Twitch streamer or terrorist, where they had like prominent Muslim, Arab, pro-Palestine Twitch streamers, and they were being compared to like Osama bin Laden, everybody else in the community would have been like, this is fucking unacceptable. What are you doing? Yeah, they'd get lit up on Twitter. Twitter is very different now. Twitter is very right-wing. That obviously has the capacity to change people's perception of like what is permissible, what is acceptable. It sucks, but that's how it works. But yeah, there is definitely an endless amount of extremely online losers who spend every waking moment on the internet, and they spend a good deal of time just trying to make people's life a living hell. And the only thing that they respond to, because they're not like they don't have like a lot of sound political points of view. Like they don't have like a firmly established political point of view at all. And they just simply lean into like vibes in general. And because they do that, when the vibes are right wing, when they see a lot of like right wing brigaded comment sections, they think, oh, this is normal. This is what like the majority believes. This is what the cool kids believe. And that's how they establish their political point of view, their political worldview. But those people are very malleable. Those people have not they have not committed to a political worldview. They're just going along with what they think the vibes are. It's actually that easy. Which is part of the reason why, as I'm saying over and over again, like a lot of these people, many of you have found yourself in the alt-right pipeline back in the day for this exact same reason, right? You probably found yourself in the alt-right pipeline for this exact same reason. You probably watched like Joe Rogan, then you watched that Ben Shapiro video, and you were like, oh, these guys are like owning the fucking libtards. It's awesome. And before you knew it, you were, more and more invested in the right-wing sphere, and it took a lot for something to snap you out of it. But that was like the Gamergate era. That never really went away. That agitative propaganda on the right still exists. The algorithm still very much favors reactionary right-wing commentary. It's not a secret, especially on platforms like YouTube, for example, and Twitter plays a big role in this as well. So, yeah, for many of you, I was the guy who snapped you out of it, right? Or eventually, I played a role in your awakening, in your development, in your political development. So, I obviously am going to keep doing what I'm doing to varying degrees of success, but we are there. We're definitely there. I think the broader cultural forces are shifting in our direction once again. The pendulum is swinging back. And obviously, it's important for all of us to maintain some sort of posture to show people that this kind of attitude is unacceptable. The reactionary point of view is unacceptable. To tell people to not be bigoted. Of course, not in a way where it's like cynical, hollow weaponization of like identity politics as it was in woke 1.0 from a position of like moral superiority. That was one of the worst aspects of woke 1.0. I was very critical of that at the time as well, even though people didn't really listen to me. But in woke 2.0, I think we can both have fun and be woke and call out bad behavior. Is Hasan getting paid by the CCP? I'm getting paid by the viewers. The Piker Broadcasting Service, PBS, the People's Broadcasting Service, is sponsored by you, the people, for you, the people. It was unironically Red Shambhala edits on TikTok that got me out of it. Hey, whatever works for you, man. But yeah, when you see like normies or people who are politically uninitiated develop some kind of like reactionary point of view, don't feel discouraged by that. Don't get upset by that. For the apolitical normies or for the apolitical people on the internet, they don't have a well-established, developed point of view. They don't have a political perspective. They don't have the political education. They don't have class consciousness. Many of them are children anyway. And children are at the mercy of the masses. If they see a brigaded comment section leaning in a reactionary perspective, they think, oh, this is cool. This is what people are into. Eventually, they will grow out of it. They will have an experience in their life, as many right-wingers do, where either they will find themselves at odds with the right-wing movement, or a loved one will be in the crosshairs of a right-wing policy, and that's when they realize, oh, I need to develop empathy for others. Some never do. Obviously, there's a level of intelligence required for this. There's a level of educational attainment required to get there for many. That's part of the reason why the biggest gap in this country politically is not even around how much money someone makes, but what their level of education is. I believe it's like 60 to 70% leaning in the Democratic Party's direction when you have a college degree or above. The highest likelihood that you will vote for the Democratic Party in this country as a demographic is if you have a degree higher than a Bachelor of Arts or Sciences. Like if you have a graduate degree or a master's degree, then it's like you're almost 100% likely to fucking, it's the highest likelihood that you will be a Democratic Party voter. You're forgetting this 75% of the yard boys are on your side on the political spectrum? What, 75? No, it's 100% of the yard boys are on my side on the political spectrum. What are you talking about? Yes, when I found you in 2018, I was dating a QAnon believer, but I didn't have any idea what the fuck that was. I would ask him to tell me about it or send me links, but I wasn't willing to share anything and only brought it up rarely. Hasanabi, thanks to you, I learned what the fuck was going on and helped me gain enough awareness to change the trajectory, because the hell was I overlooking before shaking my head? Mobile chatter, by the way. Yeah. There's definitely a huge vibe shift taking place. There's definitely a huge vibe shift taking place right now. And of course, we've always been there. We've been steadfast in our advocacy here in this little corner of the internet. And I will continue doing that. So I will always be open-minded and charitable to those who have gone through their own journey and arrived at this destination. I will welcome them with open arms, and I will always be there to help educate them. One of my political science professors claims this was due to Bill Clinton abandoning the rural working class. How true do you think that is? It's 100% true. So, there was an educational attainment change that took place, because back in the day, if you went to college, you were a high income earner. The Republican Party had the vibes of like a country club. Very wealthy people, elitist people were oftentimes, more often than not, Republican, but the overwhelming majority of the blue collar working class were Democrats. Now, this shift actually started in the Nixon era as well. Vietnam, hard hat wearers, like the aesthetics of trying to tap in to the working class. And it obviously accelerated with the Reagan era, culture wars, and you know, getting the working class on board with tax cuts and anti-union initiatives, anti-union legislation. But yes, Bill Clinton and NAFTA was the final blow. NAFTA was the final blow. When those jobs dried up, when those labor unions died out, there was no longer a working class movement that was feeding into the base for the Democratic Party. That's it. Do you feel like that can or could be attributed to college graduates being more exposed to culture? Urban areas of politics seem always skew Democratic as well. Yes. So political polarization has taken on a very different shape in the United States of America in 2026 in comparison to where it was in the past. That political polarization has been designed around wedge issues. Shout out to Newt Gingrich for this. This is, again, a post-Reagan, first started in the Nixon era, but certainly became the prominent fixture of American politics in the Reagan era, culture wars and wedge issues, where both parties would identify themselves as being in favor of certain values. And this was this designed a wedge between the Republican Party and the things that they advocate for, which is like, anti-abortion, pro-Christianity, pro-small business, fake bullshit, right? And tax cuts and deregulation, right? And the Democratic Party was in opposition to those things, progress, to varying degrees. And also the Democratic Party, I guess, had more ideological diversity about, trade policy and trade protectionism and things of that nature, but it became a much more neoliberal, anti-welfare state party with Bill Clinton, and a free trade party with Bill Clinton. So that established somewhat of a uniparty approach to international trade policy. That established a neoliberal uniparty approach to many of the solutions to the existing problems that people were experiencing. That's precisely the reason why the Democrats since the 90s have barely been able to launch any kind of serious socialization initiatives in the field of healthcare, because they're backed by the same fucking corporate entities, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Aetna, and many others. So there's a uniparty in Washington, D.C. Both parties align. There's consensus politics in Washington, D.C. between Democrats and Republicans on keeping healthcare private. Democrats want to fund it more with subsidies. Republicans want to take those subsidies away. But ultimately, they're aligned and have arrived at a consensus that it should still remain privatized, right? There's obviously a uniparty consensus politics on American foreign policy. This was post-2001. Global war on terror. That was the last bastion of the anti-war liberalism movement. There were a lot of critics of George W. Bush. Obama killed that, right? Anti-war liberalism died with Barack Obama. Anti-free trade protectionist Democrats died with Bill Clinton. Pro-welfare state liberalism died with Bill Clinton. And anti-war liberalism died with Barack Obama. Okay? That's it. So what you're saying is the Democratic Party actively destroyed itself. Yes, it did. 100%. But fear not. We are currently moving into a different epoch, a different phase of American politics, where we are restoring, maybe even going further beyond the New Deal era of governance. That is definitely where at least we are trying to move the Democratic Party by force. In the direction of less of a focus on culture war narratives and more of a focus on hardline economic improvements, class struggle, centering the working class at the heart of our policies. It is of course necessary to go further beyond New Deal democracy, New Deal Democrats, in order to ensure that this is a resilient movement. But that is hopefully, if we are successful, that is where we will move in the direction of socialism. Restoring a manufacturing base in the United States of America, if it's even permissible, even if it's even possible. Not only onshoring jobs, onshoring manufacturing, but also making sure that those onshored manufacturing opportunities are not simply increasing economic activity, but it's also bringing back good jobs for people with good benefits, union jobs, creating an environment where there is more political participation from the working class that has been left behind in this country. Because the last 3 decades, the last 4 decades of American politics has been dominated by Ronald Reagan, by Reaganite neoliberalism. Every subsequent Democrat, every Democrat that has come after Ronald Reagan has also been a neoliberal. And yes, this includes Barack Obama as well. It's true. So it is important for us at the peak of the contradictions worsening to help people come to terms with their class position and demand an alternative. Was NAFTA a good thing? Fuck no. What are you, crazy? We have to, Central Committee, thank you for the raid. We have to do away with a culture war first policy platform that the Democratic Party has leaned heavily into because of the consensus politics that I just mentioned. Democrats need to completely flip the script and go balls to the wall and very aggressive on hardline economic progress, on policies of socialization, hopefully policies of nationalization down the line, while simultaneously still mounting a significant defense for marginalized identities and marginalized communities, but never allowing the Republicans to frame the conversation around some of these like edge cases that are commonplace and perfectly normal, but will become a big issue if we allow the Republicans to center the conversation around these issues. You know, high school transgender athletes participating in high school competitions. This is not a real issue. This is not an issue that impacts any American in a significant manner, right? It is a clearly, purposefully concocted narrative that was focus tested by the Republicans in an effort to make that the key fixture of American politics. Well, Donald Trump did it. He banned transgender athletes. Did that help you? Do you feel better now? Do you feel like your life is improved in any significant manner? Of course not. Because it was always bullshit. It was always a fucking distraction. A very violent one for the tiny minority of transgender people. It's horrible for them. But it's not good for you. So I always say we have to have a vision in the affirmative, a clear, identifiable agenda that people can sink their teeth into. An agenda that centers the working class, an agenda that seeks to improve people's material conditions. An agenda that revolves around expanding the existing social safety nets in very meaningful ways, an agenda that tries to reset the way that the American politics have consistently, since the Reagan era, demanded less and less from the wealthy and more from the working stiff, the average Joe. We have to, it's topsy-turvy in this goddamn country and in many other Western capitalist liberal democracies at this point. That is precisely the reason why there has been tremendous wealth consolidation, specifically in the stock market. The bottom 1%, or sorry, the bottom 50% of wealth in this country own 1% of the stock market. The top 10% own 90%. The top 10% of wealth in this country own 90% of the stock market. That's where all of our economic activity is, right? That's everything now. That's everything. And it's built around a hope and a dream. It's not built around market fundamentals any longer, if it ever was. Finance capitalism has destroyed that. We don't have the widget factory any longer. We have no outputs to look at, no KPIs, just vibes. tech stocks, AI, the same $100 billion exchanging hands between NVIDIA and OpenAI and ChatGPT and all these other fucking companies, right? All of that money is circulating, but it never touches your pockets. It never improves your financial situation. Remember, I'm going to repeat this one more time. This fact is insane. The bottom 50% of wealth in this country own 1% of the stock market. 1%. The top 10% of wealth, on the other hand, own 90% of the stock market, with the overwhelming majority of that ownership coming from the top 1%. So even the multimillionaires are getting fucked over in this country with the amount of unfathomable wealth consolidation. Wealth consolidation and power consolidation is in the hands of fewer and fewer people. Okay? This cannot go on. This is a completely busted system. This avarice, this endless appetite for wealth and power consolidation is never going to stop unless we make it stop, unless we turn it around.